Kulasi kopa, wulastagog. Tbeltamotid askami gitakmi gomen wulastagwig. We welcome you to our traditional territory of the people of the river, unceded and unsurrendered. Ksabiat diba, kuligizato diba, pogwatunya jaguptihigno. You are graduating with pride. You have earned the applause of a nation for a job well done and deserving of praise. I stand with all your families, your fellow classmates, instructors, and your communities to applaud your achievements. I envision your graduation hats to symbolize your acquired knowledge in a ceremonial way. My peaked hat honors traditional knowledge left to all of us by our ancestors. The peak reminds us to think beyond the physical realm and to honor the spiritual thinking we inherited from our ancestors before us. I sound the eagle whistle. To alert creation that you are deserving of their attention as you communicate your new knowledge to the world. In the same way, our sibling eagle lets us know that we are never alone. Creation awaits our voices that heal our hurt, to praise, not gossip, to give gratitude instead of complaints, to speak our languages that will guide our future in a good way. I raise my eagle fan to ask our wind family to protect you from physical harm as this pandemic seeks new carriers. I lift this ancient arrowhead high for each of you to always remember the gift of each day when grandfather sun rises to greet you with purpose. May your goals, both short and long, lift you to a higher senses of wellness, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally. I have filled my sacred pipe in your honor to send you prayers to keep your hearts free from burdens, your bodies healthy from anguish, your minds filled with ideas to share our worldviews, and last but not least, to keep your spirits fed as you gift our world with the wisdom that you have learned, and to continue learning as long as the sun and the moon endure. Gazalmopa, Gezalok, a blossom wes. Congratulations.
Colleagues, guests, and most importantly, graduates, what a year it has been. There's no doubt that 2019-20 will go down as a year of historic highs and lows for NBCC. We started from the high of having members of our NBCC family on the world stage. Alumnus Pascal Dwaron and instructor Lloyd Kierstead traveled to Russia in August for the World Skills Competition, where Pascal competed against the world's best in automotive technology. I can remember thinking to myself, if this is how we go into this academic year, the sky's the limit on what we can achieve as a college community. Then heartbreak. The weekend before classes started, we were all rocked to our very core by the tragic deaths of 3 of our international students. We all mourned together the loss of these young men who traveled to Canada to learn. Our close-knit community of learners and staff grew even closer in our grief, and we drew strength from each other as we came to terms with this loss. Time stands still for no one. With our heartache still fresh, we started our academic year. The bravery shown by all of you in that dark time was truly inspiring, and it marked a strength that although we didn't know it at the time, you would have to draw upon again before your time at NBCC came to an end. I don't think anybody could have predicted the changes that the coronavirus pandemic would bring to our college, our province, or our society. every aspect of our daily lives has changed. And that has included the way we work and the way we learn. I know that most of you didn't expect to finish your college experience virtually, physically separated from your instructors and your classmates. However, you still found ways to be with and support each other. You organized virtual breaks, well-being sessions, and workshops designed to help you share and learn together. Your patience and maturity as we all navigated through what this new normal would look like was a source of great pride for all of us. The class of 2020 will always hold a special place in the hearts and minds of the NBCC family. For me, the one word that will always come to mind when I'm thinking about the class of 2020 is resilience. You have all shown strength and determination in completing your programs in changing circumstances. And those are qualities that are going to serve you well as you leave NBCC and enter the next stage of your lives. On behalf of everyone at NBCC, I want to say thank you. Thank you for stepping up, for continuing to show up in all kinds of different formats, for sticking with us, and for choosing NBCC as part of your educational and career journey. In these extraordinary times, you have truly shown yourselves to be extraordinary representatives of New Brunswick Community College. Congratulations and best wishes.
Well, hello there, class of 2020. I'm a former graduate of NBCC in Woodstock, New Brunswick, but I'm working with the Weather Network now here in Halifax. I got a lot of hands-on learning, worked hard with the camera, and I've been at the Weather Network now for 8 years. So it's an evolving media landscape, and right now we're in a big time of change around the workplace. I've always worked from home with the job I have now. I go out, travel around, doing stories around the Maritimes. I love coming to New Brunswick to check out the weather events. There's always big snowstorms in Moncton, or I've covered the flooding in Fredericton. But one thing I've always learned working at the Weather Network, it's important to be able to evolve. Our founder said in a speech, after I was first hired, he used a Wayne Gretzky quote, which is really relevant. You want to be where the puck is going, not where it has been. And in your career, you always want to see what's coming next, and you'll need to evolve and change. I know your teachers and professors have really taught you well with the current landscape, but that's going to change over time in the workplace, and you can always continue to refresh on things on the internet, on YouTube. I go on there and learn new editing systems, new ways to shoot. At first I had a huge ENG, big hunky camera over my shoulder. I've used a small Nikon. I'm shooting this actually on a great quality iPhone. So it changes over time, and you'll have to learn to change with it, but it's fun, it keeps things interesting, and I wish you all the best, class of 2020.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Muir, and I am your NBCC St. John Campus Student Union President. I would like to congratulate all of the 2020 grads on all of your hard work and dedication. I am pleased to introduce Evan Els from the Respiratory Therapy Program as our valedictorian.
Good afternoon, faculty and staff of NBCC, family and friends in attendance, and of course this year's 2020 NBCC graduates. I know many of us have taken different paths to get where we are today, whether it be coming right out of high school, finishing a post-secondary degree, or returning to school later in life. But I believe we can all agree that the road we took has been more rewarding than not, and the lessons we learned along the way will resonate with us as we move forward. The hours of studying at home, working in the shop, or practicing in the lab have finally paid off, and we have the skills necessary to succeed. So it's during a time like this where we can reflect on who has helped us along the way and what NBCC has taught us to contribute to being productive members of society and to excel in our profession. From our family and friends who were there for the meltdowns and the late night study sessions as we crammed for the text the next day, to our instructors who worked diligently to provide us with the best possible education and who took it upon themselves to go above and beyond and help us at each step of the way. And yes, Sean, if you're listening, that goes for you too, buddy. Now, I know that I'm not the same person I was when I started the program to where I am now, in a good way, that is. And I know that it stems from the love and support of my NBCC family, and I hope that many of you can say the same. So as we transition to the next stage of our lives, I encourage us to use what NBC has taught us to be the best citizens in our community and co-workers at our job. From leadership and strong work ethic, to developing powerful intra and interprofessional relationships, all while never being satisfied and striving to exceed expectations. So on behalf of the 2020 graduates, I want to thank our instructors, support staff, and NBCC as a whole for giving us the opportunity to succeed. There's no way we could have done it or be where we are today without you and the unconditional support you provided. And finally, congratulations to the graduates on a successful completion of your program, and I wish you the best of luck in the future. Thank you.
You've all received a grad box. It's our gift to you to mark this momentous occasion in your educational journey. Take a moment, pull out your flute and sparkling juice. Fill your glasses with either your sparkling juice or beverage of your choice. It's time to celebrate. Although this isn't the graduation ceremony any of us envisioned, we're happy to be here celebrating with you. And we hope that even though we're gathering virtually today, that you can feel our collective pride in all that you've accomplished. On behalf of NBCC, I want to congratulate you on all that you've achieved. It's official and my esteemed privilege to declare you the class of 2020.
Sláinte! Félicitations!
Cheers!
Salut!
To the class of 2020.
Hello, NBCC St. John graduates. Welcome. This has been a year like no other. You may be tired of hearing about how much adversity you have faced, how you have had to persevere, how patient you have had to be, and how resilient you have had to become. What you may not have heard is how proud we are of you for doing all of those things. We are so very proud. You have exemplified what an NBCC graduate looks like even before graduating. You have just gained a whole new set of life skills above and beyond your college education. These will serve you well time and again as you move through life's next chapters. Congratulations, class of 2020. There will be a number of awards presented today. The first will be the Student Excellence in Leadership Award for the St. John campus. I am pleased to announce that Chris Tays from the Electronics Engineering Technology program is NBCC St. John's winner. Chris has demonstrated exceptional leadership in actively contributing to the CubeSat NB project, his community, and supporting his peers. Best of luck to Chris as he moves on to UNB to pursue his electrical engineering degree. Graduates, I wish you all the best in every aspect of your lives moving forward. Congratulations, class of 2020. At this point, I am pleased to turn things over to Lindsay Bowman from the NBCC Board of Governors to make a special announcement.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be with you today virtually to celebrate the class of 2020. On behalf of the NBCC Board of Governors, congratulations to all of you, and thank you to everyone who contributed to this wonderful ceremony today. It is my honor to announce the recipient of the Governor General's Medal recognizing excellence in academic achievement. The Governor General's Medal was first awarded in 1873 by the Earl of Dufferin and has since become one of the most prestigious awards that a student at a Canadian academic institution can receive. The Governor General of Canada continues this tradition of encouraging scholarship across the nation and recognizing outstanding students. This award is presented on behalf of Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Julie Payette, Governor General of Canada, to the graduating student with the highest grade point average. The recipient of the Governor General's Medal for St. John campus is Stephanie Pellerin of Moncton, New Brunswick, who is graduating from the Early Childhood Education Program with a GPA of 4.273. Congratulations, Stephanie, and congratulations to all that make up the class of 2020.
Congratulations on that incredible accomplishment. And now, it gives me great pride to introduce the graduating class of 2020. Each program will be identified, followed by the roll call of graduates. As we present the classes, you will hear some graduates being announced with designations. One that you will hear is honors. Graduates who have a cumulative grade point average of 3.5 or above receive the designation of honors. Secondly is the Academic Excellence Award. This award recognizes the top student in each program who has achieved honors and has the highest academic standing. Congratulations once again to the extraordinary class of 2020. Please stay tuned until the end for our salute to graduates. You don't want to miss it. Cheers.
Administrative Professional. Kelly Monique Bacon, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Margaret Aileen Tolobas Castillo, Manila, Philippines. Zhou An Jing, St. John, New Brunswick. Sukhjit Kaur, St. John, New Brunswick.
Riley Lee Allen, Willow Grove, New Brunswick. Hitesh Anumala, St. John, New Brunswick. Michelle Mary Diana Arsenault, St. John, New Brunswick. Lori Burnell, St. John, New Brunswick. Malorde Egkoli Castaneda, St. John, New Brunswick. Rebecca Ray Chown, Sussex, New Brunswick. Joni Ham, St. John, New Brunswick. Marisa Gamad Olivas, Taguig City, Philippines. Joy Jasmine Ubin Tan, St. John, New Brunswick. Jacob Joseph Vianu, St. John, New Brunswick. Emma Vincent, Rossay, New Brunswick.
Matthew Thomas Lowell Mallory, Sussex, New Brunswick. Sarah Tabilaran Matondo, Back Bay, New Brunswick. Tan Min Nguyen, St. John, New Brunswick. Brittany Olson, St. John, New Brunswick. Jean Probst, St. John, New Brunswick. Farinaz Ramani, St. John, New Brunswick. Harsh Rashmakant Raval, St. John, New Brunswick. Debalina Saha, St. John, New Brunswick. Lena Siju Varghese, St. John, New Brunswick. Jasdeep Singh, Moga, India. Julita Bain Soriano, Baguio City, Philippines. Jennifer Marie Thibault, St. John, New Brunswick. Nicole Vautour, St. John, New Brunswick. Marianne Hugo Villaverde, Quezon Province, Philippines. Administrative Professional Executive, Martina Isabella Joy Bradley, Barnesville, New Brunswick. Alyssa Helen Deaver, St. John, New Brunswick. Courtney Donovan, Penobscot, New Brunswick. Kelsey Elliott, St. John, New Brunswick. Destiny Alexandra Higgins Elson, St. John, New Brunswick. Natasha Marie Falloon, St. John, New Brunswick. Constance Fermenke, St. John, New Brunswick. Dina Amy Gautreau, Upper Golden Grove, New Brunswick. Jessica Lynn Johnston, St. John, New Brunswick. Lily Eileen Kinnear, St. John, New Brunswick. Jillian Alexa Leclerc, Lakeside, New Brunswick. Heather Eileen McPherson, St. John, New Brunswick. Sydney Kathleen Middleton, Sussex, New Brunswick. Stephanie Evans Noss, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Natasha Amber Nowak, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Haley Winifred Dawn Ross, St. Martin's, New Brunswick. Kirandeep Singh, St. John, New Brunswick. Christine Danielle Walker, St. John, New Brunswick. Robinson Xavier, Ernakulam, India.
Jessica Barrett, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Amanda O'Neill, Hampton, New Brunswick. Hugo Fiera Santos, St. John, New Brunswick.
Dongdi Zhu, St. John, New Brunswick. Auto Body and Collision Technician, Almogaria Shakir Alabal, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Beth Ann Anita Bailey, St. John, New Brunswick. Joshua James Clark, Riverbank, New Brunswick. Noah Kenneth Crosman, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Eric Dimitri Gay, Moncton, New Brunswick. Connor Daniel Langell, St. John, New Brunswick. Tanan Liu, St. John, New Brunswick. Jesse Kanumbe Lakusha, St. John, New Brunswick. Gabrielle Marie Murphy, Public Landing, New Brunswick. Automotive Service Technician. Christian Barry Allaby, Nowidjawak, New Brunswick. Dustin Taylor Carroll, Hatfield Point, New Brunswick. Lauren Anne-Marie Galbraith, St. John, New Brunswick. Edwin Aguinaldo Garcia, St. John, New Brunswick. Connor Gribbins, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Cameron James Grift, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Alex Josiah Howe, Hampton, New Brunswick. Aaron Douglas Joe, St. John, New Brunswick. Vishal Kaushal, St. John, New Brunswick. Ashwani Kumar, St. John, New Brunswick. Anthony Michael Lively, St. John, New Brunswick. Mitchell R. London, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Christopher Marston, Baines Corner, New Brunswick. Andrew John Daniel McCormick, New Maryland, New Brunswick. Dylan McCatton, St. John, New Brunswick. Justin David Gordon McMahon, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Bassem Aldel Abedladi Mohammed, St. John, New Brunswick. Long Tron Mai Nguyen, St. John, New Brunswick. Ryan Peterson, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Kamal Principal Singh, Gurdaspur, India. Bhargav Samarkumar Trivedi, St. John, New Brunswick. Business Administration, Accounting. Alexander Gregory Arnold, St. John, New Brunswick. Tiffany Hope Arthurs, Somerville, New Brunswick. Erica Lynn Bell, Ratter Corner, New Brunswick. Cherry Dane Ponce Bulassa, Canal, New Brunswick. Jacob Cormier Roy, Bathurst, New Brunswick. Elizabeth Ann Daigle, St. John, New Brunswick. Sanat Gubdisimet, Almaty, Kazakhstan. Andrew Gallant, St. John, New Brunswick. Madeline Marcia Graham, Grand Bay, Westfield, New Brunswick. Jonathan Andrew Gray, St. John, New Brunswick. Laura Lynn Guimont, St. John, New Brunswick. Bree Heather Ann Langell, St. John, New Brunswick. Tong Thai Nguyen, Phu Yen Province, Vietnam. Dominique Stella Wilhelmina Perron, Upper Golden Grove, New Brunswick. Ta Huang Con Pham, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Calvin Ryan, St. John, New Brunswick. Jacqueline Joson Salonga, Malabon City, Philippines. Tony Sam, St. John, New Brunswick. Hayden Garrick Stephen Shore, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Emily Grace Spear, Penfield, New Brunswick. Caitlin Elaine Waddell, Clifton Royal, New Brunswick. Damon Joseph White, St. John, New Brunswick. Elizabeth Louise Wilkes, St. John, New Brunswick. Matthew Williams, Long Reach, New Brunswick. Caitlin Linda Williston, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Business Administration, Financial Management. Angela Banzon, St. John, New Brunswick. Sai Chen, St. John, New Brunswick. Ryan Jeffrey Fries, St. John, New Brunswick. Matthew Murray Hagerman, St. John, New Brunswick. Ben Bradley Harrington, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Emily Gabrielle Harity, St. John, New Brunswick. Darren Michael Keith, Appahock, New Brunswick. Jalen Loatman, St. John, New Brunswick. Joshua Logan, Grand Bay, New Brunswick. William Nagel, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Stephen Seeley, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Yan Jing Shen, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Anders Jordan Van Wart, St. John, New Brunswick. Business Administration, Marketing. Curtis B. Baird, St. John, New Brunswick. Timothy Benson, St. John, New Brunswick. Melody Hope Bork, Nowidjawak, New Brunswick. Elijah Clark, St. John, New Brunswick. Linda Clark, Kierstead Mountain, New Brunswick. Noah John Donovan, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Logan Alana Doucette, St. John, New Brunswick. Adam William Downey, Moncton, New Brunswick. Kayla Dawn Marie Flowers, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Braden Thomas Paul Gendron, Hampton, New Brunswick. Jennifer Kane, St. John, New Brunswick. Joshua Adam Lively, St. John, New Brunswick. Paige Mackenzie Morrison, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Elizabeth Jane Nelson, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Matthew Grant Price, St. John, New Brunswick. Natalie Taveras Santiago, St. John, New Brunswick.
Brady James Willingston, St. John, New Brunswick.
Bridget Carey Tomlinson, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Stephen Wills, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Carpentry. Brent Wayne Bezo, St. John, New Brunswick. Liam Mitchell Bork, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Luke Bradley Doucette, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Justin Erb, Kingston, New Brunswick. Vicente Gregorio Espinoza Reveco, Pucon, Chile. Robert Joseph Wayne Hashi, St. John, New Brunswick. Brandon Wayne Hanson, Hampton, New Brunswick. Candace Dawn Hatcher, Morrisdale, New Brunswick. Maria Claire Elizabeth Hughes, St. John, New Brunswick. Matthew Tyler Keenan, St. John, New Brunswick. Christopher Lewis Marshall, Upper Golden Grove, New Brunswick. Cole William Marshall, Garnet Settlement, New Brunswick. Stephen William Melvin, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Chloe Ann Mujral, St. John, New Brunswick. Callum Anthony Richard Russell, St. John, New Brunswick. Liam Malcolm Scott, St. John, New Brunswick. Chemical Technology, Co-op. Paige Madison Gauguin, St. John, New Brunswick. Robin Brown, Southfield, New Brunswick. Vivekumar Arvind Kumar Duddit, Visavadar, India. Megan Lillian May Galbraith, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Kaylee Marie Graham, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Seida Elahe Hasheme Amire, St. John, New Brunswick. Sungmin Jeong, St. John, New Brunswick. Monique Logier, Smiths Creek, New Brunswick. Mark McLeese, St. John, New Brunswick. Leanne Taylor Moore, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Early Childhood Education. Michaela Dawn Ayton, Nowidjawak, New Brunswick. Cassandra May Arthurs, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Yvonne Barkov, Berwick, New Brunswick. Lisa Catherine Bastarash, Calgary, Alberta. Lisa Catherine Bastarash, Calgary, Alberta. Madison Page Clark, Willow Grove, New Brunswick. Haley Marie Cathalena Caldwell, St. John, New Brunswick. Nicole Marie Kraft, Salt Springs, New Brunswick. Rebecca Lee Sear, St. John, New Brunswick. Donna Davis, St. John, New Brunswick. Brenna Rose Davis, Wilson's Beach, New Brunswick. Autumn Joy Debley, Kingston, New Brunswick. Natasha Pauline Ferguson, St. John, New Brunswick. Emily Ann Catherine Frost, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Abigail Mary Goodrow, Nowidjawak, New Brunswick. Himani, St. John, New Brunswick. Olivia Daphne May Kennedy, Kingston, New Brunswick. Hillary Dawn Hatfield Kennedy, Hatfield Point, New Brunswick. Denicia Anne Marie Laws, St. John, New Brunswick. Sarah Lynn Nicole Lagasse, Rosse, New Brunswick. Holly Christine McLaughlin, St. John, New Brunswick. Jiang Hoang Nguyen, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Tasha Lindsay Dawn Page, St. John, New Brunswick. Ruchi Harishabai Panchel, Anand District, India. Krimaben Nanshukumar Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Brooklyn Peddle, Waterford, New Brunswick. Emily Page Price, St. John, New Brunswick. Emma Olivia Robinson, Wards Creek, New Brunswick. Joranne St. Fleur, St. John, New Brunswick. Shelby Susan Elizabeth Urquhart, Cars, New Brunswick. Madison Elaine Vale, Sussex Corner, New Brunswick. Sharuk Majid Aldori, Moncton, New Brunswick. Rona Anthony, Hampton, New Brunswick. Kim Marie Arcesi, Moncton, New Brunswick. Sienna Marie Augustine, Elsipogtog, New Brunswick. Carla Joy Belding, Colina, New Brunswick. Emily Bennett, St. John, New Brunswick. Carla Ann Bunders, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Rachel Blacklock, Stylesville, New Brunswick. Brenda Susan Bradley, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Mary Sandra Brewer Sullivan, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Jacob Ian Briggs, Dufferin, New Brunswick. Sandy Brooks, Moncton, New Brunswick. Michaela Danielle Brown, Grandmanan, New Brunswick. Caitlin Ann Carroll, St. John, New Brunswick. Leah Nell Carruthers, Sussex, New Brunswick. Alyssa Nadine Shute, Welshpool, New Brunswick. Jennifer Connors, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Cynthia Liz Cook, Moncton, New Brunswick. Emily Rose Cote, Bocabec, New Brunswick. Kayla Crawford, Dieppe, New Brunswick. Victoria Mason Cunningham, Colpitts Settlement, New Brunswick. Stacy Amanda Lynn Sear, St. John, New Brunswick. Shannon Danjou, Gary, New Brunswick. Heather DeMont, Moncton, New Brunswick. Lindsay Diane DeVoe, Elmsville, New Brunswick. Jenna Dawn Doothright, Colpitts Settlement, New Brunswick. Chantel Elliott, Rosse, New Brunswick. Paige Frawley, St. John, New Brunswick. Kelly Ann Gesner, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Tanisha Maureen Goodwin, Grandmanan, New Brunswick. Jessica Margaret Gowan, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Heidi Dawn Graves, St. John, New Brunswick. Laura Greer, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Shelley Lynn Grondine, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Deanie Ermeni Hashi, Moncton, New Brunswick. Kim Hall, Rolling Dam, New Brunswick. Lauren Hallahan, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Joanne Hamilton, St. John, New Brunswick. Amy Jennifer Hansen, Moores Mills, New Brunswick. Emily Marie Doreen Hayward, Upper Golden Grove, New Brunswick. Jessica May Hoffman, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Lacia Alyn Howe Hayes, Sussex, New Brunswick. Rosanna Joanne Hunter, Riverview, New Brunswick. Monica Lynn Johnson, Crombie Settlement, New Brunswick. Kayla Christie Jonkus, Charter Settlement, New Brunswick. Ashley King, LaPro, New Brunswick. Marissa Gale Kingston, St. John, New Brunswick. Jennifer Frances LaBilwa, Eel River Bar First Nation, New Brunswick. Lindsay Ray Laporte, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Cindy Ann Locke, Grambanan, New Brunswick. Abby Elizabeth Ann Lockhart, Canal, New Brunswick. Cindy Lee McDonald, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Abigail Sean McGowan, St. John, New Brunswick. Tricia Marlene Martin, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Sarah McLean, Ratter Corner, New Brunswick. Rachel Ann McKinnon, Rexton, New Brunswick. Sarah McLean, Ratter Corner, New Brunswick. Angie McLean, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Jenna Marie Hope McLeod, St. John, New Brunswick. Chantal McNeil, St. Maurice, New Brunswick. Christina Morin, Hampton, New Brunswick. Christina Monroe, Steve's Mountain, New Brunswick. Jennifer Lydia Murray, Canal, New Brunswick. Jennifer Michelle Nangreaves, Hazelbrook, PEI. Angela Marie Neat, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Lori Nichols, Hanwell, New Brunswick. Shelby Nodden, Moncton, New Brunswick. Caitlin Mary Pascon, Carter's Point, New Brunswick. Quinn Reuben Patterson, Sackville, New Brunswick. Kaylee May Paul, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Ludmila Rodriguez da Paz Vieira, Moncton, New Brunswick. Candy Lynn Pelton, St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Noha Robbie, St. John, New Brunswick. Mariah Wraithby, St. John, New Brunswick. Heidi Lane Rice, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Sarah Ripley, Sackville, New Brunswick. Lisa Aaron Robinson, Sackville, New Brunswick. Pam Romhild, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Gerald Lingen Salta, St. John, New Brunswick. Paige Sears, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Allie Ashley Shannon, Little Ridge, New Brunswick. Robin Irene Shaw, Blacks Harbor, New Brunswick. Zachary Douglas Shaw, Springfield, New Brunswick. Jessica Melissa Smith, Annagants, New Brunswick. Stephanie Marjorie Steves, Miramichi, New Brunswick. Star Irene Stevens, Somerville, New Brunswick. Janelle Kathleen Sturgeon, Moncton, New Brunswick. Ashley Lynn Sweeney, Valley Road, New Brunswick. Dale Tacoma, Shediac Bridge, New Brunswick. Anna Leslie Teed, Valley Road, New Brunswick. Megan Doris Thompson, Mayfield, New Brunswick. Caitlin Alexis Thorne, St. John, New Brunswick. Kajal Brooke Toke, Graham and Ann, New Brunswick. Jennifer Urquhart, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Chelsea Vautour, St. John, New Brunswick. Carly Nicole Vigneault, Shamcook, New Brunswick. Sandra Lee Vout, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Tanya Walker, Drummond, New Brunswick. Jessica Frances Weeks, Oak Haven, New Brunswick. Erica Jordan Welton, Petticodiac, New Brunswick. Jennifer Wilson, Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Christine L. Saley, Riverview, New Brunswick. Ariel Hashi, St. John, New Brunswick.
Olubunmi Olanrewaju Apintaku, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Jennifer Barrett, St. John, New Brunswick. Jolena Lynn Cochran, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Joy Marie Eldridge, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Mina McNally, St. John, New Brunswick. Stephanie Pellerin, Moncton, New Brunswick. Megan Viola Jean Ashley Ring, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Sabrina Catherine Ryder, St. John, New Brunswick. Educational Assistant Jamie L. Bannister, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Terry Lee B.A., St. John, New Brunswick. Chelsea Marie Carpenter, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Carly Joanna Chase, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Penelope Ann Clark, Hampton, New Brunswick. Tracy Dawn Clarkson, St. John, New Brunswick. Mackenzie Robin Cook, St. John, New Brunswick. Sarah Jean Cormier, Willow Grove, New Brunswick. Chelsea Lynn Craig, St. John, New Brunswick. Maricia Eleanor Day, St. John, New Brunswick. Lila Victoria Debley, Kingston, New Brunswick. Rebecca Desjardins, St. John, New Brunswick. Damian Estabrooks, Roachville, New Brunswick. Kristen Yvonne Fillion, Douglas, New Brunswick. Robert Hooper, St. John, New Brunswick. Emily Margaret Hunter, St. John, New Brunswick. Jessie Ocean Maria Jefferson, St. John, New Brunswick. Cheyenne Fawn Kindred, Kingston, New Brunswick. Angela Shirley Long, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Peggy Lee McGugan McDonald, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Heather Catherine McNay, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Kelsey Lynn McVeigh, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Erica Kathleen Munier, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Monique Perry, St. John, New Brunswick. Rebecca Ann Pike, Newigawak, New Brunswick. Rochelle Patricia Lynn Rash, St. John, New Brunswick. Bridget Lynn Marie Richardson, St. John, New Brunswick. Tina Marie Roy, St. John, New Brunswick. Catherine Ann Shushbo, St. John, New Brunswick. Bonnie Steele, Grove Hill, New Brunswick. Marissa Marie Thibodeau, St. John, New Brunswick. Emily Leanne Thomas, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Cody Mel John Vaughn, St. John, New Brunswick. Elisa Ward, Rossay, New Brunswick. Carrie Watson, St. John, New Brunswick. Brianne Lisa Marie Warden, St. John, New Brunswick. Electrical Construction. Jordan Ross Arsenault, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Brandon Wayne Bezo, St. John, New Brunswick. Garrett Harry Britton Campbell, St. John, New Brunswick. Samuel Isaac Delaney, St. John, New Brunswick. Aaron Cody Ganong, Hampton, New Brunswick. Mitchell Edgar Howells, Lake Loon, Nova Scotia. Ethan Aubrey David Johnson, Kierstedville, New Brunswick. Christopher Charles Kincaid, Norton, New Brunswick. Daniel Stewart Landry, St. John, New Brunswick. Jared Allen Marshall, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Bradley Michael McLaughlin, St. John, New Brunswick. Mitchell Nickerson, Rossay, New Brunswick. Wyatt Irvin John Pomeroy, Sheffield, New Brunswick. McGuire Bennett Price, St. John, New Brunswick. Mike Tyler Robichaud, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Marcus Dugan Ross, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Harmanjot Singh, St. John, New Brunswick. Devin Brian Slay, St. John, New Brunswick. Ming Tang, St. John, New Brunswick. Andrew Vigneault, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Benjamin Alexander Weatherson, St. John, New Brunswick. Carrie Douglas Wortman, St. John, New Brunswick. Jiayang Wu, St. John, New Brunswick. Electrical Engineering Technology. Andrew Wallace Alford, Hampton, New Brunswick. Sagar Kumar Bed, St. John, New Brunswick. Parita Rakesh Godgast, St. John, New Brunswick. Kumar Demanthbai Joshi, Barak, India. Mani Kishore Kara, East Godavari, India. Meyer Kanubai Pandav, Surat, India. Electronics Engineering Technology, Harshit Pralaji Bhatt, St. John, New Brunswick. James Michael Byers, St. John, New Brunswick. Amy Cooper, Freeport, Bahamas. Sean Allen Galbraith, Prince of Wales, New Brunswick. Tony Grace Gallion, St. John, New Brunswick. Armin Sidarubai Carcilia, St. John, New Brunswick. Axit Ashakabai Catharia, St. John, New Brunswick. Daniel Martins Ribeiro de Oliveira, St. John, New Brunswick. Jonah Ethan Nice, Cars, New Brunswick. Riley Walter Noel, Grand Bay, Westfield, New Brunswick. Bhavin Dhiren Pandya, Vadodara, India. Prit Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Kirkland Mitchell Pierce Reed, Jeffreys Corner, New Brunswick. Pallav Sandeepai Shukla, Vadodara, India. Christopher Taves, Kingston, New Brunswick. Don Haifong Tran, St. John, New Brunswick. Anthonius Verhaven, Sussex, New Brunswick. Energy Systems Technology. Irfan Ahmed, St. John, New Brunswick. Akash Kumar Jayandrabe Bhatt, St. John, New Brunswick. Suradeep Chandariskarahan, St. John, New Brunswick. Nicholas Adam Ubley, Rosse, New Brunswick. Hernan Lopez, St. John, New Brunswick. Allison Dawn McFarlane, St. John, New Brunswick. Mitchell Curtis McGraw, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Lee Murphy, St. John, New Brunswick. Vatsal Shah, St. John, New Brunswick.
Mingzuan Gao, St. John, New Brunswick.
Connor Allen Smith, St. John, New Brunswick. Fuels Technician. Daniel Hebert, St. John, New Brunswick. Kyle Alexander Marsden, St. John, New Brunswick. Devin Reese McGarrity, Lower Norton, New Brunswick. Ankit Kanubai Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Lalit Kumar Jayantabai Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Benjamin Gerald Stewart, St. John, New Brunswick. Wayne Watson, St. John, New Brunswick. Human Resources Management. Rupinder Kaur Bath, Ladahania, Punjab, India. Carly Morgan Copeland, St. John, New Brunswick. Samuel Jarvis Corbett, Sussex, New Brunswick. Erin Grace Haley, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Tori Millicent Hawkins, Penfield, New Brunswick. Sarah Eugenholtz, St. John, New Brunswick. Himang Shandubai Kathiria, Rajkot, India. Balwinder Kaur, Haryana, India. Julie Ann McKnight, St. John, New Brunswick. Abigail Miller, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Karen Lynn Montroy, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Tasha Aline Pikarski, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Hemant Kumar Sarashan Rathod, Vadodara, India. Babita Sharma, Amritsar, India. Niharika Abid Kumar Thakkar, St. John, New Brunswick. Marlene Margaret Thompson, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Digna Ashinwabhai Vasava, Vadodara, India. Mai Tuit Voy, Saigon, Vietnam. Sabrina Elizabeth White, St. John, New Brunswick. Huan Zhang, St. John, New Brunswick. Human Services. Taylor Boudreau Sherwood, St. John, New Brunswick. Gabrielle Denisa Dow, St. John, New Brunswick. Kelsa Andrea Karen Galbraith, Nowegawak, New Brunswick. Kaylee Sherlyn May Greer, Upham, New Brunswick. Joseph Matthew Horde, St. John, New Brunswick. Shannon Brooke Ann James, St. John, New Brunswick. Marie Andre Larocque, St. John, New Brunswick. Sandra L. Lawton, St. John, New Brunswick. Alexandra Isabel Martinez, St. John, New Brunswick. Jody Lynn McCaustlin, St. John, New Brunswick. Craig A. McKillop, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Jacqueline Giron Medina, St. John, New Brunswick. Callie Rose Moore, St. John, New Brunswick. Jenna Margaret Mugridge, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Sabrina Elizabeth Miles, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Sarah Ann Ness, Belle Isle Creek, New Brunswick. Jaron Philip Nickerson, St. John, New Brunswick. Wendy Marie Nutter, Sussex, New Brunswick. Faith Bessie Peltier, St. John, New Brunswick. Sarah Jolene Allison Powell, Kingston, New Brunswick. Lisa Marie Price, Baxter's Corner, New Brunswick. Jacqueline Elizabeth Salerno, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Jocelyn Marie Shannon, St. John, New Brunswick. Jessica Elizabeth Shepard, St. John, New Brunswick. Patrick R.W. Spears, St. John, New Brunswick. Malcolm Mac Tabor, Cambridge Narrows, New Brunswick. Amanda Thompson, St. John, New Brunswick. Industrial Control Technology Co-op. Brady John Douglas Adams, St. John, New Brunswick. Alex Braun, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Aidan Fergus Bullock, St. John, New Brunswick. Ryan James Cameron, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Sam Chamberlain, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Brett Alexander Cripps Caines, St. John, New Brunswick. Ryan Bradley Curtis, Sunny Corner, New Brunswick. Josh Darrow, St. John, New Brunswick. Aaron Real Devereaux, Didugash, New Brunswick.
Justin Lawrence Murphy, Hampton, New Brunswick.
Joel Evan Folkens, Highfield, New Brunswick. Cameron Harry Gillen, Kingston, New Brunswick. Alexander Joseph Grenier, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Kelly Lee Harris, Sussex, New Brunswick. Benjamin Curtis Kingston, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Devin Robert Loans, St. John, New Brunswick. Bailey Oakes, Dalhousie, New Brunswick. Brandon Walter Sponigal, Millbrook, New Brunswick.
Cameron Harry Gilligan, Kingston, New Brunswick.
Industrial Mechanics. Luke Michael Joseph Atherton, St. John, New Brunswick. Tyler James Babineau, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Javoy Vashon Brown, St. John, New Brunswick. Maxime Marcel Casey, Rossay, New Brunswick. Shannon Nicole Churchill, Musral Settlement, New Brunswick. Curtis Donald Collins, Barnesville, New Brunswick. Noah Mark Durrell, Rossay, New Brunswick. Jordan Philip Elford, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Caleb Donald Everett Friars, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Zachary Coleman Gallant, Lower Norton, New Brunswick. Ethan Joseph Howard Gould, St. John, New Brunswick. Donovan Hilliard Green, Grand Manan, New Brunswick. Trevor Eugene Harris, Fairfield, New Brunswick. Jonathan David Jenkins, Sussex, New Brunswick. Peter David Johnston, St. John, New Brunswick. Adam Dale Kilpatrick, Plumwaseep, New Brunswick. Ben Anthony Lorden, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Trent Mabey, Wellsford, New Brunswick. Melanie McCluskey, St. John, New Brunswick. Heath Connell McDade, Rossay, New Brunswick. Avery Adam McDonald, Wickham, New Brunswick. Derek Lawrence McEachern, Upper Golden Grove, New Brunswick. Mitchell Allen McIntyre, Macadam, New Brunswick. Aidan Matthew McVicker, Penfield, New Brunswick. Austin Mifsud, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Cole Anthony Mullen, Norton, New Brunswick. Thomas Cameron Monroe, Kierstedville, New Brunswick. Jeffrey Parks, Willow Grove, New Brunswick. Devin Bradford Upham, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Information Technology, Cyber Security. Meet Kumar Rajendra Kumar Chudhari, Mehsana, India. Aishwarya Chatturi, Hyderabad, India. How to Dome, St. John, New Brunswick. Rosemary Feder, St. John, New Brunswick. Opemi L. Ferriola, St. John, New Brunswick. Juan Jose Garcia Rivera, St. John, New Brunswick. Manikandan Gunasekaran, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Gulshandeep Helikar, St. John, New Brunswick. Janarthanan Margoni Balakrishnan, Arakanam, India. Bavakumar Kiratopai Patel, Anand, India. Karan Kumar Anahilbai Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Meet Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Siddhi Narendropai Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Parth Pritesh Patwa, St. John, New Brunswick. Krutarth Atulkumar Perhoit, Kedah, India. Nitya Sanjay, St. John, New Brunswick. Bhuvaneshwari Sankar, St. John, New Brunswick. Matthew Daniel Smith, St. John, New Brunswick. Daksh Rajarakumar Trivedi, Gujarat, India. Matthew Watton, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Scott W.B. Warden, Fairfield, New Brunswick. Bhargav Hemendra Kumar Yagnik, St. John, New Brunswick. Yong Zahao, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Information Technology Network Administration, Megan Amanda Bartlett, St. John, New Brunswick. Alex Bouchard, St. John, New Brunswick. Yash Kamlesh Chedda, St. John, New Brunswick. Matthew Cousins, St. John, New Brunswick. Jacob Todd Crawford, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. John Foote, St. John, New Brunswick. Samuel Joseph Hansen, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Jared Christopher Henderson, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Jeremy Michael Joyce, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Jordan King, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Makran Ashutosh Konkar, St. John, New Brunswick. Dwai Huang Lee, St. John, New Brunswick. Kamal Vindahobai Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Megkumar Arvinibhai Patel, Navasari, India. Shavim Anilkumar Sawant, St. John, New Brunswick. Monica Jacqueline Smith, St. John, New Brunswick. Gregory Arthur Somerville, St. John, New Brunswick. Gary Alfonso Tomlinson, St. John, New Brunswick. Komali Apaturi, St. John, New Brunswick. Brianne Walton, St. John, New Brunswick. Darian Anthony Wood, St. John, New Brunswick.
Sean Ingersoll, St. John, New Brunswick.
Information Technology Programmer Analyst, Jacob Benson, St. John, New Brunswick. Hannah Claire Crothers, Sussex Corner, New Brunswick. Luke Thomas Goddard, St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Amanda Rose Jones, St. John, New Brunswick. Sebastian Maé, Oromocto, New Brunswick. Matthew David Martin, St. Martin's, New Brunswick. Sean Michael Patrick McCon, St. John, New Brunswick. Sunku Park, Moncton, New Brunswick. Connor Glenn Pendleton, Lords Cove, New Brunswick. Jarrett Joseph Peters, St. John, New Brunswick. Matthew Terry Price, St. John, New Brunswick. Ryan Saunier Quinn, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Brandon Darrell Raven, Norton, New Brunswick. Timothy Hilton Siddall, St. John, New Brunswick. Corey Stewart Gerald Steen, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Barry Keith Tomlinson, Granby Westfield, New Brunswick. Duke Hai Vu, St. John, New Brunswick. David Wu, St. John, New Brunswick. International Business Management. Samson Adam, Bangalore, India. Tarandeep Kaur Olak, St. John, New Brunswick. Yevon Berezin, Zabrahizhia, Ukraine. Harsh Naresh Bhatt, St. John, New Brunswick. Joaba May Alo Kui, St. John, New Brunswick. Samarth Sharabhai Dixit, St. John, New Brunswick. Ravi Valyubhai Gajera, St. John, New Brunswick. Priyank Gondalia, Vadodara, India. Kung Van Hong, Ha Long, Vietnam. Joel Shinado Iroka, Benin City, Nigeria. Mosam Jain, Dungarapur, India. Poonam Vrikam Ketewa, St. John, New Brunswick. Rimpo Kaur, St. John, New Brunswick. Ankita Ramachandra Kothari, St. John, New Brunswick. Debbie Ann Aldana Magno, St. John, New Brunswick. Maria Moskalenko, St. John, New Brunswick. Anandrahaj Muralidarahan Nair, Barak, India. Mohammed Jafir Nadersaw Basha, Thanjavur, India. Oghenomero Stephanie Omorobi, St. John, New Brunswick. Darshakumar Rajesh Kumar Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Dewani Hemant Kumar Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Mohit Chandrakant Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Jennifer Margarita Pereira Linval, St. John, New Brunswick. Aftab Amin Pirani, Vadodara, India. Mitesh Kisharabhai Radadia, St. John, New Brunswick. Tamer El Hosini Shahin, St. John, New Brunswick. Jitendra Singh, Mumbai, India. Ma Socorro Masliano Sunga, St. John, New Brunswick. Kunjal Karankumar Trivedi, Vadodara, India. Rhoda Vasquez, St. John, New Brunswick. Machinist. Walker Dana Allen, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Percival Harris, St. John, New Brunswick. Matthew Gideon Jackson, St. John, New Brunswick. Alexander Bradley Main, Appahock, New Brunswick. Kyle Vincent Martin, St. John, New Brunswick. Ian Thomas McWilliams, Grand Bay, New Brunswick. Cody Peters, Lincoln, New Brunswick. Andrew Michael Powell, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Taran Preet Singh, St. John, New Brunswick. Hunter James Stevenson, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Mechanical Engineering Technology. Jeffrey Daniel Banks, St. John, New Brunswick. Kyle Dickinson Walker, Meductic, New Brunswick. Connor Jude Dunnett O'Reilly, Sussex, New Brunswick. Robert Frenette, St. John, New Brunswick. Martin Michael Gallant, Bloomfield, New Brunswick. Chingwan Kyle Gee, St. John, New Brunswick.
Michael Miriam McLeod, St. John, New Brunswick. Seth Arthur Getreau, Petticodiac, New Brunswick. Amanda Goldie, Rossay, New Brunswick. Brandine McLaughlin, St. John, New Brunswick. Michael Miriam McLeod, St. John, New Brunswick. Michael Joseph Smith, St. John, New Brunswick. Hu Ba Quang Tai, St. John, New Brunswick.
Harshkumar Joltindra Patel, St. John, New Brunswick. Vanessa St. Anna de Paula Lira, St. John, New Brunswick. Evan David Steves, St. John, New Brunswick. Eduardo Beruth Xavier, St. John, New Brunswick. Mechanical Technician Co-op. Chris Paul Arthur Arsenault, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Maxwell Louis DeFazio, French Village, New Brunswick. Jeremy Donald Holmes, Kingston, New Brunswick. Nicholas Blaine Hunter, Durham Bridge, New Brunswick. Garrett Johnston, Rossay, New Brunswick. Nicholas James Kirkpatrick, St. John, New Brunswick. Preston Mark Leadley, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Cody Anthony Lohman, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Volodymyr Lidovchenko, Kiev, Ukraine. Evan Michael Matheson, St. John, New Brunswick. Ross Avery Northrop, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Melissa Susan Roach, St. John, New Brunswick. Ryan Rooney, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Brent Gordon Russell, Rossay, New Brunswick. Medical Laboratory Assistant. Denise Jane Arroyo Buen, Angano Rizal, Philippines. Sarah Cormier, Riverview, New Brunswick. Vanessa Hashi, Hampton, New Brunswick. Taylor Michelle Hutchison, Wolfville, Nova Scotia. Alexis Kathleen Johnston, Cody's, New Brunswick. Melissa Marie Lee, St. John, New Brunswick. Kathleen Matheson, St. John, New Brunswick. Leanne Catherine Stevens, Hampton, New Brunswick. Medical Laboratory Technology. Kiana Amqueshwe Beers, Moncton, New Brunswick. Jamie Patricia Cruikshank, St. John, New Brunswick. Courtney Cunningham, Scotch Ridge, New Brunswick. Michaela Catherine Jonkus, St. John, New Brunswick. Mackenzie Dawn Melvin, St. John, New Brunswick. Nicola Mary Pond, Lakeville Corner, New Brunswick. Kristen Marie Riker, Hampton, New Brunswick. Cassidy Ray Stafford, Minto, New Brunswick. Kayla Victoria Dawn Sturgeon, Gray Rapids, New Brunswick. Mark Joseph Surrett, St. John, New Brunswick. Jessica Terrio, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Brooke Alexandra Marie Tucker, Royal Road, New Brunswick. Personal Support Worker, Acute Care. Sherry Georgette Cooper, St. John, New Brunswick. Megan Ashley Crothers, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Victoria Rose Justison, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Melissa Frances Mintern, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Sydney Elizabeth Phillips, St. John, New Brunswick. Zedric Graydon Purdy, St. John, New Brunswick. Abigail Anek Scholten, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Kyle Thomas Shepard, St. John, New Brunswick. Personal Support Worker, Shayna Marie Creamer, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Tyra Elizabeth Dennison, Piccadilly, New Brunswick. Rebecca Eileen London, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Zachary Wallace Spragg, Rockland, New Brunswick. Plumbing. Cameron Robert Bishara, St. John, New Brunswick. Keith Redvers Bishop, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Alexander Jordan Chase, Upper Tracy, New Brunswick. Joshua Roy DeLong, Wirral, New Brunswick. Brandon DeVoe, St. Martin's, New Brunswick. Samuel W. Hamilton, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Jeremy Joseph Irving, St. John, New Brunswick. Dylan Tyler David Legacy, Granby Westfield, New Brunswick. Tristan Tanner Riley, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Arshdeep Singh, Patalia, India. Jeremy Paul Stacy, St. John, New Brunswick. Michael Anthony Stesmans, Cambridge Narrows, New Brunswick. Power Engineering Technology, Co-op. Nathan Brooks, St. John, New Brunswick. Alex Cairns, Granby Westfield, New Brunswick. Sangyeon Cho, St. John, New Brunswick. Cole Walker Clift, St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Cody Crane, Waterville Sunbury, New Brunswick. Kirk DeFazio, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Matthew Dollamount, St. John, New Brunswick. Keel Christopher Gerard Forsyth, St. John, New Brunswick. Jordan Lee Gayton, Oak Hill, New Brunswick. Scott Jeffrey Irving, St. Stephen, New Brunswick. Thomas Ketchum, St. John, New Brunswick. Christopher Harold Mailman, Titusville, New Brunswick. Chase Patrick Miller, St. John, New Brunswick. Edmund William Sullivan, St. John, New Brunswick. Michael Graham Tozer, Miramichi, New Brunswick. Jared Valdron, Point Lanim, New Brunswick. Cade Leslie Webster, St. John, New Brunswick. Jason Matthew White, Rothsay, New Brunswick. William Christopher Wilson, LaPro, New Brunswick. Practical Nurse, Marizan Avicilla, St. John, New Brunswick. Devin Ray Barrio, St. John, New Brunswick. Oksana Vezuglova, St. John, New Brunswick. Jennifer May Flanagan, Rosse, New Brunswick. Hillary Eileen Flood Waugh, St. John, New Brunswick. Eloisa Gassick, St. John, New Brunswick. Jessica Nicole Giggy, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Haley Hines, St. John, New Brunswick. Morgan Emily Lacey, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Amanda Marie Langell, St. John, New Brunswick. Michelle Kimberly Lapointe, Nowigawak, New Brunswick. Jennifer Rose Lutz, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Mackenzie Kathleen Meehan, Rosse, New Brunswick. Kathleen Marie Peachman, St. John, New Brunswick. Brandy Peterson, St. John, New Brunswick. Emily Lana Reed, Timber River, New Brunswick. Ashley Lynn Sanders, St. John, New Brunswick. Callie Steen, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Leilani Van New Amarongan, St. John, New Brunswick. Victoria Marion Janet Wood, Browns Flats, New Brunswick. Process Control Technician, Adraldo Anselmo de Aguiar, Santa Barbara do Oeste, Brazil. Nicholas Anderson, Dalhousie, New Brunswick. Matthew Alexander Bolio, Tidehead, New Brunswick. Lori Clark, Baines Corner, New Brunswick. Lucas de Cavallo Grisi, St. John, New Brunswick. Samuel Mackenzie Doucette, St. John, New Brunswick. Adam Michael Downing, St. John, New Brunswick. Shannon Dawn Duguay, Lakeside, New Brunswick. Braden Charles Fournier, Pascaig, New Brunswick. Brendan Paul Glaspie, St. John, New Brunswick. Brooke Margaret McKinney, Rosse, New Brunswick. Alexander Bertram McLaughlin, St. George, New Brunswick. Ryan Douglas McNulty, St. John, New Brunswick. Kristen Victoria Mills, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Corey Milne, St. John, New Brunswick. Miles Gregory Mitchell Frazier, St. John, New Brunswick. Kenneth Colton Nordstrom, Dufferin, New Brunswick. David O'Brien, St. John, New Brunswick. Morgan Mitchell O'Leary, Norton, New Brunswick. Claire Linda Winchester, Oak Haven, New Brunswick. Respiratory Therapy, Shelby Jane Elaine, St. John, New Brunswick. Catherine Bruce, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Megan Elizabeth Brunn, St. John, New Brunswick. Brittany Patricia Charters, Beaver Dam, New Brunswick. Robin Como, Garnet Settlement, New Brunswick. Alicia Jean Como, Gary, New Brunswick. Lindsay Dawn Duguay, St. John, New Brunswick. Ilakian Ilango, St. John, New Brunswick. Evan Douglas Ells, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Carolyn Emily Lawler, St. John, New Brunswick. Haram Morgan Lee, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Allison Mary McHugh, St. John, New Brunswick. Randy Anna Vanderbeek, St. John, New Brunswick. Kelsey Dawn Marie Wark, St. John, New Brunswick. Hillary Young, Fredericton, New Brunswick. Steam fitting, pipe fitting. Zachary Braden Paul Abrick, St. John, New Brunswick. Brittany Ann Albert, St. John, New Brunswick. Brandon Joseph Barnes, St. John, New Brunswick. Michaela Bennett McGrath, St. John, New Brunswick. Bailey Peter Blue, St. John, New Brunswick. Nick Andre Joseph Brian, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Sean Patrick Burns, Hampton, New Brunswick. Trevor Scott Dorion, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Jaden Noah Hickey, Eel River Bar, New Brunswick. Marcus Daniel James, St. John, New Brunswick. James David Keenan, St. John, New Brunswick. Brittany Angela Legier, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Bradley Allen Leeper, Norton, New Brunswick. Brady Michael Pollock, Shannon, New Brunswick. Connor Burns Steves, Quispamsis, New Brunswick.
Kelsey Meister, St. John, New Brunswick.
Daniel Gregory Wilson, St. John, New Brunswick. Steel Fabrication. John Kenneth Britton, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Blake Kevin Duthright, Sussex, New Brunswick. Alec Reginald Ferris, St. John, New Brunswick. Shelby Lynn Garnett, Upper Golden Grove, New Brunswick. Cameron Hoyt, Bloomfield, New Brunswick. Nicholas John Langis, Upham, New Brunswick. Colin Alexander Matheson, Tracy, New Brunswick. Brandon McLaughlin, St. John, New Brunswick. Jeong Jae Oh, Seoul, Korea. Eric S. Finney, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Vrushab Raput, St. John, New Brunswick. Shannon Kelly Rowe, Garnet Settlement, New Brunswick. Christina Louise Yoakum, Saco, United States. Welding. Helen Barton, Sussex Corner, New Brunswick. Jeff Bostwick, Hampton, New Brunswick. Matthew Logan William Carter, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Garrett Robert Corbett, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Tyler Lucas Stephen Dowling, Grove Hill, New Brunswick. Cole Earl Ernst, St. John, New Brunswick. Cameron Bradley Frazier, Kingston, New Brunswick. Robert Avery James Gray, St. John, New Brunswick. Christian James Griffin, St. John, New Brunswick. Colby Michael Jesso, St. John, New Brunswick. Colin Lawrence Maber, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Jacob Thomas McClellan, St. John, New Brunswick. Madison Elizabeth Ann Mitchell, Hampton, New Brunswick. Taylor Job Pearson, Smiths Creek, New Brunswick. Trent Evan James Rich, Wellsford, New Brunswick. Liam Joseph Robertson, Burton, New Brunswick. William Joseph Robichaud, Rothsay, New Brunswick. Haley Catherine Ann Rogers, St. John, New Brunswick. Tommy Taylor, St. John, New Brunswick. Benjamin Van Wart, Grand Bay Westfield, New Brunswick. Jacob Mullen Wood, Baxter's Corner, New Brunswick.
Congratulations!